Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are unpacking what is easily one of the most dramatic, improbable, and just utterly fascinating business stories of our lifetime. We're looking at the 30-year saga of NVIDIA. And honestly, this isn't just a story about microchips or complex computer code. It's really a story about a company that started in a roadside diner, nearly died multiple times, and ultimately made a massive 20-year gamble that essentially shaped the future of humanity. So, let's dive right in.
Part 1, The Trillion-Dollar Surprise, June 2024. To really appreciate this journey, we actually need to start right at the climax. Look at the staggering reality. In June of 2024, NVIDIA briefly became the #1 most valuable publicly traded company on Earth. Just let that sink in. For a brief moment, this company, which most people only knew for making their video game graphics look pretty, was literally worth more than Apple or Microsoft. And here's the crazy part. NVIDIA didn't achieve this by suddenly reacting to the artificial intelligence revolution. No, they achieved this by preparing for it decades before anyone else even knew it was coming. So it really forces you to ask, how exactly did a gaming hardware company, one that faced total collapse in its early days, end up controlling the absolute most important technology boom of the 21st century? Part 2, Survival and the GPU, the 1990s. To figure out how they pulled this off, we have to cut sharply back in time to 1993. Picture this, 3 guys, Jensen Huang, Chris Malakaskowski, and Curtis Priam, sitting in a booth at a Denny's restaurant, deciding that graphics were the future of computing. But the 90s were absolutely brutal for them. By 1995, their very first major product, the NV1, was a complete and total failure. It launched into a market that was just moving in a totally different direction. By 1997, they were staring down near bankruptcy, burning through cash with their investors sweating bullets. But they didn't fold. They pivoted hard. They focused entirely on execution and sheer speed just to survive. And you know what? That intense, do-or-die survival mindset forged them, leading directly to a massive breakthrough in 1999.
That breakthrough was the GPU, or Graphics Processing Unit. Now, on the surface, this just sounded like a really great toy for gamers, right? Faster graphics, way better visual effects. But hidden inside this invention was a completely new way to compute. You see, traditional processors, they do things one by one, very fast. GPUs, on the other hand, are specifically designed to perform thousands of calculations simultaneously. At the time, the whole world just saw gaming hardware, but NVIDIA, they saw the foundation of an entirely new technological paradigm. Part 3, The 10-Year Ecosystem Bet, 2006.
Okay, let's move to 2006. This is the era of Jensen Huang's massive 10-year gamble that almost everyone else totally ignored. NVIDIA launched CUDA, and Wall Street, they couldn't have cared less. The media barely noticed it. Why? Because CUDA wasn't some flashy new graphics card you could hold in your hand. It was a software ecosystem. It was essentially a bridge that allowed developers and scientists to use these gaming GPUs for incredibly complex, non-graphics calculations. People thought it was super strange. Why on earth would a serious scientist use a gaming chip?
Well, Jensen Huang understood something absolutely fundamental here. If you just build hardware, your competitors are eventually going to copy it, they'll improve it, and they'll outpace you. But if you build an ecosystem, if you get developers actually writing code specifically for your platform, you create this massive, incredibly sticky moat. NVIDIA was quietly out there building the roads before the city even existed. They were playing a long game that their rivals simply couldn't replicate overnight.
Part 4, Colliding with Artificial Intelligence, 2012. Fast forward a few years, and those empty roads we just talked about, they suddenly became the busiest highways on Earth. In 2012, NVIDIA's story violently intersected with the future during an AI competition called ImageNet. The goal was pretty straightforward: teach a computer to recognize images. You know, cats, dogs, cars. Progress in this field had been painfully slow for years, but then a team of researchers brought in a model called AlexNet. And they didn't just beat the competition, they completely shattered expectations. And the secret engine powering AlexNet? NVIDIA GPUs, running on that exact CUDA software they had been quietly building since 2006. Actually, scratch that, it wasn't a perfectly straight line to dominance from there. Around 2017, cryptocurrency miners suddenly realized that GPUs were absolutely perfect for mining digital coins. Demand just exploded. Store shelves were completely emptied out, prices skyrocketed, and NVIDIA's stock went to the moon. But when that crypto bubble finally burst, the demand collapsed just as violently as it appeared. It was this massive red herring that left investors terrified, really questioning what NVIDIA's true long-term value was. But here's the thing. Beneath all that noisy, flashy distraction of crypto, the real AI opportunity was quietly and steadily exploding. AI researchers across the globe were training larger and larger models. Their data requirements were getting massive, their computing needs were doubling, and nearly every single step of that incredible progress relied completely on NVIDIA hardware.
Part 5. Fueling the AI Revolution, 2022.
So that quiet explosion finally breached the surface and changed the world as we know it. In late 2022, ChatGPT drops, and the whole world basically loses its collective mind. Suddenly, every single major corporation is scrambling for an AI strategy, and they all desperately need the raw computing power to train their massive models. We're talking Microsoft, Google, Meta, Amazon, OpenAI. Literally, the wealthiest, most powerful tech giants on the planet found themselves desperately waiting in line, competing for access to the exact same bottleneck: NVIDIA's GPUs.
And they couldn't just, take their money and go somewhere else. Remember that CUDA software from 2006? It had created a massive, inescapable network effect. Millions of developers had invested years of their lives learning the platform. Top universities had deeply baked it into their academic research. Massive companies had built their entire software stacks and daily workflows around it. Switching away from NVIDIA didn't just mean buying a slightly different chip, it meant totally abandoning entire development cultures. The ecosystem trap had officially snapped shut.
Their 2024 dominance is just perfectly captured by this single quote: NVIDIA didn't win the race, it built the track. While all these other companies were stressing out, optimizing for the next quarter, NVIDIA was patiently investing for the next decade. By the time everyone else finally realized where the AI race was actually headed, NVIDIA was already miles ahead, just collecting the tolls.
Part 6. Can NVIDIA be stopped? The future. Which brings us to the biggest, most looming question on the mind of every investor, tech enthusiast, and competitor today. Now that they're sitting on top of the world, can NVIDIA actually be stopped? Well, history contains a pretty uncomfortable lesson for tech monopolies. Think about past giants like IBM, Intel, and Cisco. They all looked completely, utterly unstoppable in their prime. But eventually, the computing landscape shifted and their dominance faded. NVIDIA is absolutely the undisputed king of the AI era right now, but we know that no technology leader remains untouchable forever.
So, what are the specific threats coming for the crown? Let's break down the steps the industry is taking to shatter this monopoly. Step 1. Traditional competitors like AMD are aggressively trying to build viable alternative ecosystems to close that massive CUDA gap. Step 2. The tech giants themselves, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, are pouring billions of dollars into building their own custom, in-house AI chips just to stop paying the so-called NVIDIA tax. And Step 3. Entirely new, totally unforeseen computing architectures could emerge, rendering the current GPU paradigm completely obsolete. The very forces that elevated NVIDIA could eventually be the ones to challenge it, and they know this for sure, which is exactly why they are aggressively pushing out new chips, new software, and new infrastructure at just a blistering pace. They don't just want to participate in the future, they want to keep defining it. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. Will NVIDIA successfully define the next era of technology too, or has its greatest victory, that brilliant 30-year saga from a Denny's booth all the way to the top of the world, already happened? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the future.